What's up, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at this beautiful Murphy Labs heavy aged RO that my buddy Daniel here just got a few weeks ago. His Instagram is SD Guitars. I will put a link in the description. And yeah, we're going to take a look at this guitar, kind of go over our impressions, maybe even compare it a little bit to his RO back here. And then maybe in a future video, we will also compare it to my Les Paul and do a little shootout between all three of them. But before we get to that, let's talk about this guitar. Daniel, how'd you end up with this?
Yeah, so, obviously the Murphy Lab stuff came out around March, and Gibson's been teasing it a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to be honest, when I first saw the Murphy Lab stuff, I wasn't that into it. I'm never really a big guy in relic guitars and stuff. And I have my RO, my other one, obviously, behind us. That's, I got that because I wanted to get it in, like, the perfect sunburst as it would be from the factory.
Yeah.
And, like,
Factory burst, right?
So it's actually called Deep Cherry, but it's pretty similar to a factory. Yeah, to a factory burst. So yeah, that guitar I wanted, to buy it like as if it was brand new and then have it age naturally with me over my life. But yeah, I don't know. I just saw the Murphy Lab stuff when it came out, and there was just something at the back of my mind. Everyone was talking about it, and I'm very into reissue historic Gibson Les Pauls and that sort of thing.
You've got a few of them.
Yeah, I've had a few over the years. So, I just had to check one out. And so I actually started with an ultralight age TV Yellow Les Paul Special. And that was a great guitar. Super light, super resonant.
Yeah.
Sounded incredible. But, to pay a little bit more for the Murphy Lab treatment and then only to get an ultralight aged guitar, I felt like I was kind of missing the point of it.
Yeah.
So it just felt like an aged brand new guitar. So I sold it, and I wanted to get something a little bit more unique, a little bit more interesting, and a little bit more beaten up so I could really get the feel of what the Murphy Lab was all about.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to get an R9, but I already have my RO, which is a V1, so it's basically the same as a very late 59.
Yeah.
Spec-wise. So I've been kind of getting a little bit more into the thin necks lately, and I don't really have like a true RO. So, I really liked the way the top looked in the pictures, and I liked the way the burst looked, and the way that it was faded, and the aging I thought looked, not 100% accurate, but realistic enough. And so, yeah, I ended up pulling the trigger on this. And yeah, like you said, Tanner, I've had it a few weeks now, and it's grown on me a lot. To be honest, I was a little underwhelmed when I first opened the case.
Why is that?
It just looked like any other Les Paul, aged.
It does have a fantastic top. Hopefully it'll be able to show on the camera that the top is quite amazing. Yeah. It's
very dynamic.
Yeah, top. Super dynamic. So is it more just like the aging on it, or it's like it's another reissue? It's obviously not a vintage guitar, and you have some experience with some vintage guitars. So you're able to tell just by looking at, okay, they didn't quite get it there.
Yeah, there were a few things, like the binding. It could have been a bit more rolled for a heavy aged guitar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially where some of the clear coat is worn away on the binding. I think that could have been done a little bit better compared to, I had a pretty well-worn late 1964, early 1965 SG Standard. And, that guitar felt completely different than this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been my point of reference. And then, as you know, I actually just ordered 64 345, so I'm excited to compare that one.
Not a reissue.
Not a reissue.
A real one.
A real one. Yeah. So, there were just a few things here and there, and then overall, it just felt like just an aged reissue, like any of the other reissues that I had.
Yeah.
But the more that I played it, and the more that I got used to it, I really got into the feel, and as you'll hear in some of the playing demos, it has kind of a pretty unique set of custom buckers in it too. That I really liked.
Yeah. So I completely agree. I've not played it a ton yet. I will play it some more shortly. But yeah, the bridge pickup, to me, it has this really interesting snarl to it, but it doesn't have a ton of low mids. It's got that kind of, I think of a lot of vintage burst videos, demos on YouTube. You hear the bridge can be really, really quick.
Yeah, pretty punch right through.
Yeah, exactly. And this definitely has it. The neck is, it's not muddy, but it's definitely a fuller sounding neck. And you are one of the few people I know that loves a Les Paul neck pickup.
Yeah.
That's his like number one
It's my
position
go-to.
he uses most of the time, which is so interesting to me because I'm the complete opposite. Yeah, so why don't you tell me a little bit about how you interpret the tone of this guitar and maybe how that compares to this guitar.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing that really struck me about this guitar, and I don't know if it's, less wood in the neck or the fact that it's got a thinner finish or kind of what the deal is. But the pickups have a lot of high-end clarity, especially compared to my other RO, which has throwbacks in it. So the other RO that I have, it's got a really big, beefy sound, like, huge low end, just sounds huge,
Yeah.
especially through like a Marshall styled amp. Whereas this, I think, is a little bit better for, open chords. It's crisp, clear. Really has kind of a nicer high-end chimey tone to it that I really like. It's kind of different, which I like about it.
The immediate thing that jumped out to me when I was listening to you play is how much lower output it is actually. And we measured the pickup ratings. I'll put it up on the screen for you guys to see because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But it was definitely lower output. One of the lowest I've seen from custom buckers personally that I've measured. And so you can definitely hear this guitar is one of those where you turn the amp up, to get it to where you want. Whereas other guitars, maybe they push the amp too much. These humbuckers were really light, and the bridge especially is pretty airy sounding to me. But so it's definitely a great sounding reissue Les Paul. It's a great sounding Les Paul. You'd expect nothing less, whether it's a Murphy or a pedestrian,
a normal custom shop reissue.
Exactly. Yeah. But the real difference here is the different lacquer that they use, which we don't know much about the details on how it's different, but I will say the first thing I noticed when you handed me this guitar is the feel. It definitely feels different to the touch as compared to your RO here or my reissue Les Paul back here.
Yeah.
So that was the immediate first thing to me that I was like, okay, the lacquer feels different to the touch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know the specifics of how they did it necessarily, but I know that one thing that people complain with, and that's why they send their guitars to companies like Historic Makeovers, is that the lacquer that Gibson has been using on their reissues lately from the custom shop has a lot of plasticizer in it.
Yeah.
Which is mainly just to prevent the guitar from, doing exactly what the Murphy Lab wants to do, which is checking and chipping and flaking and aging naturally. So they add those plasticizers in so that the guitars can, survive like a trip from Nashville to Europe or, wherever the guitars need to end up. Whereas in the 50s, that wasn't really as much of a concern.
It's a little goofy to me because most people really love the Gibson checked guitar look. That's the whole reason why Murphy's Lab is even able to come, to the market, is because so many people are after this look of having a guitar that's got the checking on it. So it's kind of interesting that Gibson would try and make the finish not do that, which is interesting. But it's definitely, like I said, the feel of it is different. I don't know if you guys will be able to see my dog came here to come say hi in the video. He always does this. So that's one thing. The other thing is obviously the aging to it, and I definitely want to kind of go into that a little bit because it's very different to what Gibson had done in the past. Yep. With Tom Murphy, who is kind of overseeing Murphy Labs, but he's not, to my knowledge, actually aging the guitars anymore. Maybe he does it for made to measure.
Yeah, it's an option. If you want to spend an insane amount of money, you can have Tom age your guitar himself. But
you get that. But it's completely different. And we'll show you guys some shots with B-roll as compared to my guitar, which has the razor blade checking aging. So it's, they literally take a razor blade and just draw these lines on it and all these little loops and stuff.
Super tedious.
I can't even imagine. We were talking about this before. I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. And then if you mess up, you gotta start over.
It. Yeah.
The guitar is done. You got to refinish the whole thing. So this is completely different. This is actually the lacquer cracking versus somebody, you know, causing the lines in there, you know, by physically damaging it, you know, with a blade or something. So let's hear your impressions of this look.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, everyone's gripe with the razor blade technique was that, you know, it's not real checking, right? And the guitar isn't actually aged. But it seems like, you know, there's a lot of consensus amongst, you know, people who are addicted to these guitars like us that actually, even though the razor blade technique doesn't necessarily produce real checking, it looks a little bit more realistic than kind of the, you know, cracked glass kind of checking that you sometimes get when they use like compressed air or the freezer method at the factory.
So explain that to anyone that doesn't know. How are they aging these guitars, or how do we believe they're aging these guitars?
Yeah, so basically what we've gathered is that they just expose them to rapid temperature changes, you know, from like hot to cold, just over and over again, just causes the lacquer to expand and contract and the wood to expand and contract. And then, you know, as they kind of change at different rates, that's what causes the checking and the cracking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my Les Paul Special had really nice kind of very uniform checking across the guitar, whereas this one, it's a little bit more all over the place. But, you know, each guitar is different. That's something that's really hard to control. And, you know, now that they're using, I guess, a real way to age the instruments rather than just doing it by razor blade, that's kind of some of the appeal, is that each one is unique and they kind of all age their own way.
It's the nature of the beast with these, right?
Yeah.
So some of them, the checking might look maybe super vintage accurate. It might have, you know, a lot of those vertical lines you see. And actually, he brought over his 64 SG Junior with him, and his has checking, and we were just kind of comparing it to this, and I'll show you guys some videos, some clips in this video. But the checking on that is basically 90% vertical lines, right? And so all the way front, back of the guitar. This is very sporadic. It's kind of every direction it's got checking. Some parts it's got, you know, bigger pieces. Other parts it's a little bit more like really small cracks kind of in that area or over here on the horn. But Murphy Lab is kind of, it's roll of the dice. You know, unless you see the guitar, you have no idea what it's going to come out as. Versus something like my guitar with the razor blade checking, those are all super consistent. You know, they all look relatively similar, which is both a plus and a minus. You know, they look similar, but maybe they're more consistently, you know, I don't know. It's all up to your own interpretation, but yeah, it's very different. It's a completely different type of aging for sure. But it's a cool looking guitar for sure. The top is amazing on it. They do more than just checking on it. So this is heavy age. So what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so the difference, so there's a few different aging types, obviously. So it starts at ultralight and then goes to light aging.
What is ultralight? So where are we starting at?
Yeah, so ultralight, basically you just get checking all over the guitar. My Les Paul Special, and each one is different, so keep that in mind. You know, there's a little bit of variation from guitar to guitar, but at least the Les Paul Special that I had was pretty much checked all over the whole guitar, and then, you know, had tiny little paint impressions and dings here and there. So as you'd expect, like a guitar that's, you know, 60 years old, but that's been sitting in its case or something, or maybe just been sitting on the stand its whole life and like picked up every once in a while.
Is the hardware on those aged like a VOS style aging?
Yeah, it's pretty much just the VOS hardware.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, you go to the light aged, which personally, that's actually my favorite one because I think it's kind of the happy medium of all the different aging types. So you get checking all over the guitar, of course, and then you start to get like these, I don't know how well these pick up on camera, but these little dings and chips in the finish and stuff. And you get just the tiniest bit of arm wear at the edge. Nothing like the heavy aged where you can see here, like I've got a big amount of finish missing, but you just get like the tiniest little, and then same thing on the back. It's got like a little bit of finish worn away on the back. So nothing crazy, just as if it's been, you know, lovingly played, maybe gigged, and it's just been out and about.
And that's light.
That's light.
But this is the next step up, right?
So from what I've been hearing from dealers, this is kind of the most popular option, especially on the green lemon R9s. Those have been so hard to get. I actually wanted one of those instead of this one, but this is still awesome. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. So the heavy age, that's where you really get into the aging. So then you get special hardware that's, you know, like, I guess I can't use the word ultra because that's the next level of aging.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just get very heavy aged hardware. Like this is totally tarnished. It's like this stud is rusted. You know, the individual pull pieces are like completely rusted out.
Even the bracket here.
Yeah, the bracket looks like it's been underwater or something. Yeah, so it's just very aged. You know, dings all over the place, checking all over the place. You've got arm wear like right where, you know, you would expect your arm to be resting. Then if I flip the guitar over, it's got some good wear on the back as well. And then even looking at the headstock, you know,
I'll get close-ups of it.
Yeah, we'll get some close-ups, but you get, you know, just dings and checking all over the headstock, and even the Gibson logo is nice and you know, chipped away at as well. And some nice wear around the fretboard as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So light aging, does light aging have the neck missing any lacquer?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure on that.
It probably varies a little bit as well.
I've seen some that have a little bit. I've seen others that have all the lacquer still. So I think it just kind of...
Yeah, because this one has on the low E and the high E side, it's got quite a bit of lacquer missing along the binding there, especially kind of from here to, you know, was that the 7th fret? It's got kind of a bit missing there, but it doesn't feel, in my hand at least, it didn't feel weird. It felt pretty comfortable to me, honestly.
Really comfortable.
It is the slightly skinnier 60s neck, so it's, I mean, I don't know if it would feel different with the 50s neck where it's a little fatter, but no, it didn't it wasn't distracting, like playing and going, oh, here's some lacquer, here's some. I didn't experience that one.
No, it's a pretty seamless transition. I think they did a good job, at least on the neck and right where the arm wear is. They did a really nice job with like the transitions from like lacquer to wood. It's sanded pretty nicely, so that I like about it. And yeah, like I was saying, you know, each guitar varies. I've seen some heavy aged guitars that have like barely, well, not barely, but a good amount of lacquer missing on the back of the neck. And then, you know, this one obviously just has a little bit around the binding. So it just really depends on the guitar.
But then you have heavy.
Yeah, so this is heavy, and then there's ultra heavy aged, and I don't even know how to describe it. It's another $1,500, and it's just that much more aged.
We didn't say this from the beginning, but what is this guitar? What is the street price of this kind of guitar?
Yeah, so a heavy aged R9 or RO goes for like $9,000. It's about a $1,500 upcharge from just your base normal reissue.
So if you wanted like a straight up VOS plus $1,500 to
gets you here.
Let's maybe talk about these two in comparison. So this is, tell me about this guitar really quick.
Yeah, so that is my 60th anniversary RO from 2020. It's the V1, so it's basically, they split the year 1960 into 3 different parts. They have V1, V2, and V3. So V1 is the beginning of 1960, and so those are basically R9s, or 59 bursts.
Yeah.
Then,
that's what this is.
Yes. So it still has a 59 neck profile. You can see it doesn't have the reflector knobs. It has kind of more of a dark red finish rather than the tomato soup burst that you get with the later 1960s. But yeah, overall, a really great guitar. I've always wanted a 59 burst reissue. And so, you know, this was kind of the coolest version of that I could get at the time. Because I bought it in 2020. So Yeah, I've had it for a little bit over a year now. I love the guitar. I've changed the pickups to throwbacks. I think they're the ER Custom PAF
Yeah.
replicas. And then I've also changed the hardware to Faber, just because I ordered the pickups with shiny nickel covers. So I wanted all the hardware to match. And then, like I said, I'm really into the aging naturally kind of thing. So I wanted to get shiny nickel hardware so that I could just let it age
Yeah.
as I play it. But yeah, it's a terrific guitar. My heart still wants an R9, even though this is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. Very different from this though.
So let's talk about the differences. So obviously this was VOS, right?
Yep.
So the hardware and all that, like you said, would have been more aged.
Yeah.
But what that actually means as far as the finish goes, it's basically glossy. I mean, it has like a slight haze to it a little bit.
Yeah, I think they either skip the last polishing step or they apply some sort of product to it to make it a little bit hazier.
Yeah. So it just doesn't look brand new.
Yep.
Kind of the most interesting thing to me, I'm sure anyone watching this that's maybe interested in these guitars is, you're probably shopping between these two and trying to decide, do you go with the Murphy Lab or do you go with the, the traditional R9 RO, which is kind of the quote unquote normal specs. And obviously this is kind of the new kid on the block. So let's just kind of hear your thoughts owning both. You've had this for a few weeks now, I think.
Yep.
So you've had a chance to play with it. It doesn't seem clear to me that Gibson's like preferentially choosing wood for the Murphy Lab. Like it seems like the tops, honestly, I feel like the 60th anniversary tops have been amazing. Murphy Lab's been kind of hit or miss. But this is a light guitar, super light guitar. This is not a heavy guitar, but this is a little bit heavier than that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it seems like more the difference is just the aging on it and the feel of it. So what are your thoughts, having owned both now? Any advice you give? What do you think about having both of them?
Yeah. That's been something I've been thinking about a lot, honestly, and I feel like any normal person after spending $9,000 on a guitar is like, should I really have done that?
Yeah.
But, they're just different. It's hard to really compare them because, just right off the bat, like when I opened the case and I started playing this one, it was incredible. Like I loved it.
Yeah.
And I still do love it. And, it's my guitar.
Yeah.
It's like, it's my number one, you know? Whereas, the Murphy, it's a terrific guitar in its own right, but it's already been like relicked and aged. It's kind of a little bit more of an art piece.
Yeah.
If I had to be honest, like I don't see myself gigging with this, not because of how expensive it is, but just because it's just not, it just doesn't feel like my guitar because I didn't age it. So that's at least my personal thoughts on that.
I think there's a lot of people that think that way. I know relicking is like the number one polarizing issue in the guitar world. People are like, oh, it's like, I heard somebody say it was stolen valor, is what I heard somebody say.
Yeah.
Personally, play what you like, use what you like.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's like, I wanted just to check out one of these. I wanted to have one, so I got one for myself because I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And it's a terrific guitar, I'm not trying to pass it off as like it's a vintage Les Paul that I've been playing, for the last 60 years.
Yeah.
Like obviously
Which nobody does that.
Yeah,
I don't feel like anyone does that.
Yeah, it's just a cool guitar, and I like it. When I play it, I enjoy playing it. And when I play that one, I enjoy playing that one.
Do you feel like this has more of like a played-in feel, or do you feel like it still feels like a new guitar? Just the looks don't look new, but it still feels new, or do you think that feels a little bit more worn in than something like this?
It does feel a little bit worn in, mostly because you're missing some of this nice sanded lacquer right here on the where your arm would wear through the finish, and the fingerboard is a little bit more rolled than I'm typically used to on a normal historic reissue.
Yeah.
And we're missing a lot of lacquer around the edges as well of the fretboard. So it does feel a little bit more broken in. I have been playing this guitar for, the last 16 months or so.
Yeah.
So naturally, this one's a little bit more used and beaten up, and it feels broken into me just because I've been playing it.
Right,
and
yeah.
I'm used to that guitar.
Yeah.
But this does feel new. Don't get me wrong. Like the finish is very glassy, and there's some part, like you can tell that it's been dinged intentionally.
Yeah.
I feel like, because some of the dings are like a little bit, the lacquer's a little bit sharper, and doesn't feel like it's set into the wood that much yet.
And it's a brand new guitar. I mean, it's
and like, that's stuff that I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it to feel 60 years old.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it's a super cool guitar. It's really, really interesting to see one in person. Obviously, they're not around, they're not just at a guitar center for you to go and check out. They're a little harder to see. So I was really excited to hear that Daniel got one. We can kind of check it out, just do a quick little first look at the guitar. We're definitely going to do some more videos with it and other guitars in the future. I'm super excited. He's got an amazing guitar collection. And if you like Les Pauls, he's your guy. He's got tons of Les Pauls, different variations. So there's going to be a lot more stuff in the future, but he's going to be leaving this guitar with me to check out for a little bit so I can kind of really get a feel for the guitar. And so I can give it kind of my honest first impressions and thoughts after. Obviously, I won't have it for very long, but enough time to play it through a few different amps and kind of compare it to my other guitars. So we'll do a little bit more on that. But I just wanted to kind of do a little primer to Murphy Lab, to this heavy-aged guitar. I think the top on it is unreal. I think the aging is really, really, really exciting to see, Gibson kind of doing more with that. My guitar here, and I'll grab it real quick. So this is if you've watched this channel at all, you would have seen this guitar a little bit. This is my made to measure Les Paul. It's a 2018, and it does have checking out, the razor blade checking, as I mentioned. And there really was very little in the way of aged Les Pauls when this guitar came out, other than Collector's Choice.
Yeah.
So Collector's Choice, which if you don't know, is something that I think they discontinued, but it's kind of honestly the predecessor to this, where they had actual vintage Les Pauls that the owners brought to Gibson, and then they replicated it, and they did, a limited number of CC2, CC1, Jimmy Page burst, the green, all those things. And so those were, those could be heavy aged like this. But other than that, Gibson didn't really do just like aged Les Pauls unless you did a made to measure. And so that's what this is. So I was really intrigued by this guitar when I got it, because you don't see very many aged Les Pauls in that way. Fender has been doing it forever now with, all the lacquer checking and everything. Gibson was pretty behind, the curve on that. So this is really interesting to see them go full on into the relic thing. And I like relic guitars. I think they're cool. I look at it as a work of art versus, like, again, stolen valor or whatever, Nobody's trying to pass this off as like an actual vintage guitar at all. It's I like blue guitars. Do you like red guitars?
It's just a cool guitar.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're just cool guitars.
100%. So Gibson is a company that we both love and admire, and also get very frustrated with. They do a lot of things that are great. They make some amazing guitars. Even if you're a Fender guy, you want Gibson to win, right? You want Gibson to do good, because Gibson is such a staple in the music industry, in the guitar industry. And I love their guitars so much. And they do some things that are a little frustrating. But when they came out with the Murphy Lab stuff, I was so excited, because this is Gibson, I think, going in the right direction, right? It's not that they're eliminating the gloss options, or the VOS. If you don't like relic guitars, you can get a VOS guitar still. You can get a gloss still. In fact, they're much easier to get than a Murphy Lab. Because it seems like these aren't, at least right now, they're not out as much. But choice is a great thing. I think, as a consumer, having the options is fantastic. And them having not only Murphy age guitars, but then having the ultralight, the light, the heavy, the ultra heavy, if you're one of those people that wants it just totally beat up, Gibson now offers that for you, which is great. And, people are going to look at it and go, you know, I love this finish, or I hate this finish. I love this relicing, I hate this relicing. I like, you know, the razor blade checking, or you like the cracked glass. It's totally up to you guys.
Everyone has their own opinion.
For sure, yeah. And I always say this, play what you like.
Play whatever you like.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
100%.
Whatever makes you want to play.
Exactly, for sure. And we like Gibsons, we like Les Pauls, so.
We like aged Les Pauls, we like brand new Les Pauls.
For sure.
We like all the Les Pauls.
Yeah, all the Les Pauls, definitely.
Send them to us.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, you don't need any more Les Pauls. I need more Les Pauls. I've only got one. Anyways, yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. This is just a quick little kind of look at the new Murphy Lab Les Paul here. We're going to do more content with it for sure. Like I said, a little shootout between this guitar, this Murphy Lab, and then the 60th RO here as well. And I'm sure we'll do a lot more videos on these guitars and some of his other guitars in the collection in the future. So stay tuned for that, subscribe, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. All right, see you guys.